Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Hope you're having a fabulous week. We're having to do a little, actually, first off, I apologize that we're a little late. Technical stuff. The reason you see a second Seahorse Whisperer today is because Holly made some really cool videos. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Today's talk was going to be about setup ideas for seahorses. Like we were going to each share what our basic setups and what we do to make a seahorse tank work. Figured we go back to the basics again. And Holly took the time to make a couple of videos to show the complete spread of her tank. I, of course, am not that prepared, so I'll be talking and trying to show pictures. But Holly went to this effort, so I wanted to play them. And I honestly forgot that basically I use a PC to do the stream. And so, the videos are on my Mac. So I'm trying to use two computers. If we get too echoey, let me know. The way we're going to play this, and Happy Wine Wednesday, after I spit out all that. Happy Wine Wednesday. I'm sipping on Chardonnay. Hope you have a glass in your hand and it's great. Let me know what you're sipping on in the comments. We're not on Instagram today because I just had too much going on. So if anybody usually watches on Instagram, hopefully they'll hop on over to YouTube. And with that said, hello, Holly and Ray. Let me do that first. How are you guys today?
Well, I'm okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
My female lab isn't okay, though. I'm going to put her down.
Tell me what happened. You put her down?
A long time ago, she quit eating. And I had mentioned to you previously that I wasn't going to get into tube feeding. But it's 6 or 7 weeks now, and she's to the point she can't hitch anymore as of today. And she's still alive. You can see the gills and the snout. But I just don't figure it's worth keeping her going any longer now. So I'll probably put her down tomorrow. I'll use some clove oil, and then got to worry about what'll happen with him. Right now, he hitches onto her and drags her around the tank because she can't move around the tank on her own.
Oh, so he's taking her around for strolls?
Yeah. He takes her around, but then when he lets go of her, then the water currents always wash her back to the same place. But I've been told before that seahorses don't do well on their own, and I'm definitely not going to plan on getting any more. It's just too much for me to look after at my age. Anyway, you better get your video going there. And Holly's going to talk about it afterwards, is she?
Yeah, I can talk after. I actually talked during the video.
I think she froze.
I think Kelly's frozen. She'll probably jump back on. But yeah, I'm sorry about your seahorse, Ray. Do you think you're going to rehome the other one then, or just keep him?
I've been trying to rehome them, but I couldn't find anybody that would take them.
Oh,
I've been trying for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Like the seahorse hobby is just too labor intensive for my physical condition now.
Yeah, I can understand that. I don't see being able to do it at your age, honestly. It's hard for me. A lot of physical labor with water changes and stuff.
Yeah, it's my spine that's the worst.
Okay.
I shrunk over 4 inches just because of the degeneration in the spine.
Oh, man.
Okay. All right, guys, I'm back. Woo! I just switched over to the Mac completely. I figured it'd be easier anyways. Hang on, let me get my video going back. Hi, Tyann. Hi, Anna. Hi, everybody who said hi. Sorry, it's been a little stressful of a stream, but we're getting there. We're going to show the video here in just a second. And Ray, I'm so sorry that we weren't able to figure out the female. Do you feel like when they stop eating, it's just to the point where, beyond?
I probably suspect it's some infection she got internally.
Yeah.
I have no way to know because you just can't see them like that, and I guess I could take the after I euthanize her, I could take her to Guelph and have her autopsied to maybe find out, but it's like the cost is just not worth it.
Yeah. And your male is fine, though, you said, right?
Yeah, other than his sides are concave instead of convex, but they've been like that for a while because I don't know, it was maybe a year ago I talked about that.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
he still acts normal and he still eats like a pig.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
So are you gonna try
for 6 years? Maybe that was just enough for her.
Well,
Yeah.
will you still try to keep the male for a while though? See if he does okay by himself?
Well, see what happens. If worse comes to worse, I can euthanize them too because I couldn't find a place for a pair of them. So obviously I'd never find a place just for the one. So it'll partly depend on how I see the male reacting without a partner and also how my physical condition is. Like,
Sure.
will it justify keeping one going with the pain that I go through to do it?
Right. Well,
But
and that's
that's
anybody in Canada.
I just don't want to make that decision until, I've got more feedback from how he reacts afterwards. If he stays completely normal, then I'll probably keep him going as long as I can.
Yeah.
Real quick, Cheryl, I see you can't log in. I keep seeing you try, but then it's just a black screen. I would suggest restarting your computer. I sometimes have to do that. Obviously, I had technical difficulties today, but try restarting. And anytime I see you try to join, I'll try to get you in because you're one we definitely want to hear. Your tank setup ideas for sure. And if she can't make it this week, then we'll maybe extend it and look at her tanks next week. But yeah, Ray, I feel for you. You've been doing this so long, and it's such a shame that the female won't eat. Every single time I've ever had seahorses just stop eating, it's never been good. They've never been able to make a full recovery. When they just absolutely refuse to eat, and it's so hard to tell if it's bacterial. And once you go through all the water changes and everything, if they're still bad. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear. Go ahead.
I've had some that I was able to get eating again, but the majority, once they get to that point, I end up losing them.
Right. Well, I'm just deeply sorry to hear that. Anybody in the audience, tell us your experience. Have you ever gotten a seahorse to just restart eating if they stop? And what's the bottom line cause that you guys have found? Because there's such debates on what's happening and why. And Ray, we know keeps a clean ass tank, so that ain't it. I wanted to say hi to Kevin. Hey, Harkins Aquatics, jump in if you want to give us an update. Hi, Tyann. Hi, Anna. Hi, everyone. Shyla. Hi, if I missed your name, I apologize, but hello, and we'll be waiting for you, Cheryl. Ray, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Well, my cognitive impairment has got me in a spot now because I don't know what the hell I was going to say.
No worries. Well, while we're trying to get Cheryl in here, and while I'm trying to get myself prepared to show you my tank setups, should we go ahead and roll the film, Miss Holly?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, one other announcement since Tyann's here and Kevin's here. Did we say last week that the chart chamber was gifted to you? Then it was Anita, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Andrea, not Anita, sorry. Andrea. And she actually texted me also just to follow up from last week. She messaged me a link for a place to get Mic F, and she actually purchased a large amount of Mic F. So she's more than willing to work with people if you want to buy smaller portions. So I will put that information not only in this episode's content or chat, not chat, description. I'm so tumbled tonight, you guys. I'm sorry. In the description box, and I'll put it in last week's too, so you can find it both ways. I won't give out her information, but maybe you can contact me, and I'll be the middleman, or Holly, and she can be the middleman. Because and I'll check with Andrea if she's cool with just talking to anybody. But wanted to give those updates. And Cheryl is actually getting Kevin was kind enough to send Cheryl a char chamber. Is it called char? Is it still char chamber or just chamber? Is a Robert King chamber or something like that. Anyways, the Robert King char chamber. Cheryl's getting one too. So you're going to have feedback from not only me, but Holly and Cheryl. And Cheryl's going to do some fun stuff with it. So definitely. And Andrea said, yes, Mike F for the tribe. Let me put that up real quick. We appreciate you, Andrea. So I should have done that at the very beginning, but I knew Ray wanted to share about his seahorse. And I'm all excited about watching Holly's video because I finally got it to work. But those are definitely important updates. So Andrea for Mike F, and you'll hear more about the chambers coming very, very soon from all of us. So, and Holly, what are you planning to do with it?
You know, I'm still trying to decide because I have multiple tanks.
Right.
And it's most likely going to go in my display tank because that'll be easiest. I have a pump with 6 outlets there, and I still have 3 outlets free, so it can plug right in. If I put it in the grow out tank, I'd kind of like to have it in there because I've already got K1 going in the display tank, and I don't have on the grow out tank, so it's not quite as much filtration as the other. So I kind of want to put it there, but I have to get another pump for it. So it's not a plug and play like the other one is.
Right. Well, go ahead. Were you done? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say I've also got a freshwater tank.
Right.
But I'd kind of rather have it in seahorses because I feel like they need it more. But so I don't know. I'd like to see it in the grow out tank, but I'd have to plug in a whole nother pump for it. Whereas if I put it in the display tank, I just plug it in and it goes.
Well, let me see if I have an extra little pump sitting around because I definitely want to see. I keep trying to add Cheryl, guys. That's why you keep seeing this little thing in the bottom corner. Not with her. But yeah, so I would definitely suggest using it in the Seahorse tank. Like I said, my second one, I'm still waiting on the fry. And the reason for that is I had told Kevin initially that I was going to kind of do a tie-in type deal where I was going to use it in feeds and do cocoa pods and see how it helped with that. But I was like, if you guys go watch Tank Talk with Tyann, she's done all that. She's already covered it, you know? So I was like, do something different. So I got 2 char chambers, and the bigger one I put in the 40-gallon all-in-one, and it's only rated 20 gallons, right? It's the char chamber I got was only rated for 20 gallons, but it has made so much of a difference. I just can't even tell you guys. I mean, it's the kind of difference that you don't like even realize, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's water change day, and this tank looks like I just did a water change. Holy moly. It's like, I mean, you're going to notice a difference for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just extra. So I think the size doesn't matter, you know, as much. It's just adding extra boost. So any tank I put it in, I think it'll be fine. But it's most likely going in the display tank, like I said, because that way I don't have to plug in another pump. I just put it in on an outlet.
Well, I would never ever suggest that you slack on your maintenance because we never want to do that. But you'll just notice. I mean, it's just, at least I did. I just noticed within a few weeks. I was like, wow, this is. And don't the bubbles, like, that's more aeration, right? I mean, not a huge amount.
Yeah,
but
they will probably like it. And does it help with algae at all?
Well, I haven't noticed any. Remember, I had that green stringy algae over the tank. I mean, if you think about it, basically what it's doing is the chamber is containing the media, and then the aquachar is like literally not only working like a charcoal, but then it's working like biomedia too. So I made a video a long time ago for them where it shows like a little bacteria living on the aquachar saying, "Ooh, yeah," and like the food is sucked in, and it's like it can just sit there and eat, so it doesn't even have to work that hard. So it's a good thing all around. And all I can tell you is I'm curious to see what happens with you, though, Holly, because I was trying to keep the tank looking pretty. So my char chamber went in the Robert King. I keep forgetting to say Robert King's char chamber.
Oh, Kevin says yes, it will help reduce algae.
Well,
So yeah, I think I will put it in the display tank because I get algae in that tank, but I don't in the grow out tank. So I think I'll
we'll
put it
put
in
it in
there and
the
just see if it
tank
does make a difference.
and take pictures so we can, and videos so we can update and show you guys. And what was I going to say? The last thing. Oh, in mine, because I'm in the 40-gallon on one, I put my Robert King char chamber in the back so you couldn't see it.
Mhm.
I'm wanting to know, when you put it in the actual tank, are you going to put it in the actual tank, Holly?
I was debating that too. I'll see when I see it, like how much space it takes up and how I can rearrange things to make it work. But I'm thinking it will be in the actual tank instead of the display because I want them to be able to enjoy the bubbles
I was just
and
going to
see
say
what
that.
they think of that.
I was going to say
Mhm.
they're going to be flocking to that thing and dancing in the bubbles. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
And
we'll
really,
see. I'm interested to see. I'm looking forward
and
for
see, I'm
sure.
still waiting on the fry. My boy still has not. That's my other update. I've still not gotten a new batch of fry. They flirt constantly, and Dan told me maybe I just need to add, another pair or something, because maybe they're just not, the girl's not liking them very much or something. I don't know. But I'm waiting on a
My
fry.
boys don't know what to do.
Well, what? What do you say?
My boys don't know what to do. I had a female.
Oh,
She was snicking. I heard snicking, and I'm like, "There's no food in there. What's going on?" So I look over. I was here on the computer doing some work, and I look over at the tank, and one of the females was trying to get one of the males to swim up. They were doing the flirty thing, and she was pointing her nose and her body, and he wasn't getting it, so she started snicking. And he still like snapping her fingers, like, let's get to it. And he still didn't do anything. So she left. And then another female came over and sat there and just looked at him for a while. And then she left, and this other female, the first female, came back and strangled him. She totally strangled. I posted a video of them, but it was the funniest thing watching the interaction. It was like she got mad, she got frustrated and came back, but she's figured out she wants to go up. She wants to swim up,
mm-hmm.
and she can't get the males to to do it.
Mine are even swimming up. They're doing the circle spin, the twirly whirly all the way to the top. And he gave me a text. There's Cheryl.
Yay. She's frozen, but there.
Yep, we're getting her. I'm gonna mute her just for now because it's echoey. But when you can talk, raise your hand, Cheryl. Anyhow, yeah, sorry, I'm jumping all around, but yeah, mine do the circular spin. I just think that, like Dan was saying, sometimes they just don't like each other. It's very odd. It's not
I
usual,
don't
but
know. Yeah, Scrappy Doo doesn't. He still doesn't have Fry, but yeah, he knows how to dance, and he's dancing with Candy, who has been a mom several
right.
times. So I don't know. I've even almost considered putting him in the grow out tank for a little while so the other boys can see how it's done.
Yep.
Because I
Well,
bet he'd like all those girls. He's always trying to get pregnant, but it's not working out over at his house.
well, and that's basically what Dan said is, switch them up, to either
Mhm.
switch some, and that's not advised. If you're new to the hobby, don't switch up seahorses, don't mix them. I keep everything for tanks
Mhm.
separate. But when I'm in a situation where I'm wanting fry so that I can test out my smaller char chamber, he's not giving them to me. I'm gonna have to, because I've got 2 females and 1 male in that tank, and I had 10 fry and nothing else. So it's very odd. Cheryl left again. But the reason I was saying all that is just to show the smaller one that's still out of the water because I'm waiting on fry. But they're not big.
Nice. Yeah.
This is the smaller one. The bigger one's in the 40-gallon, but
Uh-huh.
they're not huge. And anyways, I'm just curious to hear what you and Cheryl think of them and how they work out for you, because I have been
Yeah,
personally.
wait. Looking
All right.
forward.
Very good. And thank you again, Kevin and Andrea. You guys are awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attempt to play Holly's video, and then we can talk about it after it plays because she talks through it. She sent me 2, so we'll go with the first one first. And let me see if I can pull it off. Let's just see here. All right, here we go.
Good day, everyone. Just wanted to take a little time and share with you how I have my display tank for seahorses set up. So this is a 55-gallon acrylic. It does have a built-in overflow. You can see, the box back here and the return nozzle at the top, returning water back into the tank. So the way it's plumbed is not pretty. You can see underneath, these are the hoses for draining the tank and also returning the water. The sump does not fit under the tank. So the water has to travel way over here to my sump. This sump holds about 25 gallons of water. And in it you can see my equipment. It's not too pretty. In the first chamber I have a skimmer, and this is a Simplicity skimmer. Here's the paperwork on it. This is actually rated for a 240-gallon tank, so it's a pretty big skimmer. You can see here how it works. There's a cup at the top that you move. It collects all the detritus and debris that gets stuck in there. So it comes up into that little cup on the foam. The knob on the left you see with the white screw on top, that's for adjusting the air bubbles inside of it. And then there's another thing, this right here, that adjusts the water level. And it also has, take you up here, there's a control box where you can adjust the speed of the pump. Now, also in that chamber, I have a hose that runs to my chiller. And next over, I have my biofilter media. I have a bunch of bio balls in here with some air stones and some K1 in a 2-liter pop bottle. That's what you see going around and around in there. In the last chamber, I have the actual pump itself, and the bag of aquachar is in there, as you can see, and also the return from the chiller. So here's the pump that I use. Sorry, so this is a Jabeo pump. They have these on Amazon. That's also where I got my skimmer, I believe. I found it on Amazon. And the chiller I got from Amazon as well. And the chiller, just heard it kick on here. Take you around and show you that. So this is a Baoshishan chiller. And I have it plumbed to the sump, so water runs in and out of the sump, and it keeps the water. I have it set to 72, so it'll switch on if the water hits 72. Also, in my climate, we get cold and hot. So over here, see if I can get to it, under the tank, I don't know if you can see, that's my heater. I have an inline heater, so water actually flows through it from the tank. So anyway, that's how I have my display tank set up.
Awesome. Okay, now let me try to play the second one. Hang on, sorry. All right, we're doing great here. Here we go. You guys get to see my iCloud. Yay, raw. All right, God knows what those pictures are. All right, here we go. This is the second one. Maybe.
Hello, folks. Ready to share again. This is what I call my tank. This tank is a 75-gallon, and it does not have built-in overflow box. So I had to go online, and once again, thank you, Amazon. I found 2 overflow boxes to use. The reason I have 2 is because figured out that's what I need to get the gallons per hour transferred in and out of the tank to be good for the seahorses. So they just hang on the back and they're kind of a pain. As you can see, the little hose coming out, that's just a piece of air line. And attached to it, I've got a little valve here. And just there's the end. Every now and then, when the water gets low up here, I have to open up the valve a little bit and suck the air out and tighten it up again to keep the flow going. So that's why it's kind of a pain, but I usually only have to do that maybe every couple of weeks or so it doesn't happen all the time. But every now and then you do have to restart that siphon action. So underneath, pretty much the same as my display tank, and it's kind of messy as you can see. But I have my skimmer. This is another sump, about 25 gallons of water. I noticed they'll say 30 gallon on the sump, but when you fill it with water, it's not as much as it says. So my guess is they're about 20 to 25 is what it holds. So I've got my skimmer. Forgot to mention on the display tank, when the water comes in, it goes through a filter socket, to kind of screen out most of the big stuff. And then, just like the other tank, I've got a section with bio balls, and then over here, my pump returning the water. This one also has a heater up here. That's where the heater's plumbed in to my return. And down here I have my chiller, same way as I have the one in the display tank. You'll notice this one I have set for 73 because I checked it, the thermostat actually reads wrong. It reads a degree higher than what the water actually is. So even though it says 73, it's set for 72. And I always double check my water temps with multiple thermometers, so I make sure things are actually right. So that's the grow out tank. Up above it, I didn't mention the lighting. So I have a regular shop light above it. That's normally turned off because it's bright enough here with the windows that the seahorses really don't need it most of the time. But I'll have it on if it's a really cloudy day or something. So anyway, that is the grow out tank.
Awesome. Okay. And then I'm going to stop sharing, and it's going to take me a minute to get my pictures together. So Holly, quick questions. Any questions from the audience? Feel free. What was the white stuff in your overflow boxes? Tell us about that, why you needed that.
Oh, there's a little screen that comes with it.
Okay.
And on mine, that's probably a good thing because bugs get in that tank all the time. And it kind of screens out the bugs, but I take them out and rinse them off. And today they went in the bleach bucket. And I actually cleaned those boxes, get filthy, and they are really hard to clean. So I cleaned out the boxes today, and they're still not really clean because you can't fit stuff in there to clean it really well. So that's kind of a challenge. But those screens, it works fine without them. So I can pull them and throw them in the bleach bucket and just let it run without the screens. And it's just that bigger particles get in. I think the main reason they have those screens is to keep like your little snails and things out of there. But I have no snails or crabs or anything in that tank. So nothing's going to go down the drain anyway in there. So the one thing those do help me with is bugs. Yeah, they are a problem in that tank.
Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. But so
that's okay.
How did you decide what kind of skimmer to get and what kind of rating you needed for the skimmer in the Seahorse tank?
Well, basically, I did research. I think pretty much on Seahorse Source. Actually, is probably where I figured out, and maybe one of my Seahorse books. I think this one. Let's see if I have it sitting here. No, I don't. But yeah, there's a book about keeping seahorses that's fairly recent. And somewhere I read you want to have about 3 or 4 times the tank volume in a skimmer. So I went big just for that reason. And before I bought that skimmer, I had a little hang on back skimmer. And so I know I needed a big skimmer.
Right.
So I knew going in. So I upgraded. Basically, I had a sump that came with that tank when I started. It was a freshwater tank. And the sump was tiny. I want to say it was only like this long, this tall. I bet it didn't even hold 5 gallons. I bet it was probably 2.5 or something. So I
Really?
had a bio balls and stuff, but I had that a hang on back skimmer for the first, I want to say, close to a year of the tank, maybe. And then I also had a coarse substrate, not sand, in the beginning. And I did lose one seahorse, my male that was giving birth, the male that had the fry. I lost him to a bacterial infection. And it was after I upgraded the tank, but I bet that was part of the issue was I didn't have enough filtration on it for the seahorses in the beginning.
Yep.
So that's why I went really big with everything.
And Ray, what's the recommendation that you give for skimmer size? Do you do it based on the tank volume
Basically,
or?
that same thing, 3 to 4 times the size.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, guys. Again, I'm trying to do 2 things at once here. I apologize. Trying to throw some pictures together to show you. Okay, what other question? Let me see. What inline heater do you use, Holly? Harkins Aquatics wants to know.
Oh, good question. Give me a few minutes and I have the paperwork on it so I can look it up. I have 2 different ones. I have one from I got from China, I believe, and it reads in metrics instead of Fahrenheit, but it works just as well as the other. So I'll look it up.
Okay.
I think the U.S. is probably the only country in the world now that isn't metric.
I believe so. So yeah, I've learned the metric also now because I have to read my equipment.
So Ray, real quick, while she's doing that, and I'm trying to do something. What kinds of things do you tell people they need to start with in a seahorse tank? Like, what are the? I know there's a lot, but like, what are just some of the bare minimum that you recommend?
Well, I don't get into too much in telling a lot of specifics. I get into telling them my outlook. But as far as specifics, I keep on referring them to Seahorse Sources page and get them to look at things in there, because the way I do everything is not the way most people want to do something. I'm a what do you call it? Minimalist. And my tanks aren't set up to be great looking tanks like so many of them are. For me, I set it up to make it easy to look after and to make it safest for the seahorses. And it took a lot of years to find out what would do that for me. But again, like I say, everything's pretty minimal. My sumps are very simple. There's no separation sections in it. They're just tanks that I put the return pump in, and if I'm going to hook up carbon, then I put that in, or if I have the skimmer hooked up, the skimmers won't, my skimmers are 6 foot tall, so they won't fit
Right.
in sumps. So I just power the water either from the tank or from the sump up through the skimmer and back down again. But and also I go bare bottom again because it's so much easier and to keep it clean, which again means that the seahorses are safer. I am a very lazy person, so I know that if I have the substrate in there, that sooner or later I'm going to slack off. It's just the way I am. And so if I go a year or something and then start slacking off, then what's the point? I know I can't do it, so set it up where I can look after it better.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And but you do.
I
What would you
found the
say?
heater stuff when you guys are ready.
You go, Holly, please.
So in the display tank, I have a high door heater. There's the guide to that. And then the one on the display tank is called a Sun. And all the directions are in Chinese. Although in English it does say, please read the instruction manual completely before operating.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured it out. I figured out it's like I said, it's only in Celsius, but it works. It does what it needs to do, so I'm not complaining.
Very good. Very good. Okay. I'm about to just share some pictures. So what I'm going to say too, guys, is anybody in the audience, if you guys want to share your tanks, you're more than welcome to jump in next week or even this week. And it's really hard for me to like live show you guys stuff, but I can do a better job of like making videos like Holly did. I just wasn't that prepared. And I know Cheryl wants to share the tubs very badly. So but let me see what I can share. Sorry, guys, trying here. All right. Actually, is there anything else we can chat about while I'm trying to finish this up, guys? Ray, anybody? I know I put you guys on the. I saw Shyla's mail.
Pick a topic and we'll talk about it.
Okay, Shyla's mail is 17 days pregnant today. I'm jealous as heck, Shyla. I'm so jealous. Okay, Ray, talk about why temperature matters so much. Like why you have air conditioned craziness in your basement.
Well, I air condition the area where the tanks are because it's cheaper than using chillers. It's cheaper to operate and cheaper to buy because, for instance, I can buy a 5,000 BTU used for $50, and you're not going to get any chiller that you can buy for that kind of money. And if it hadn't worked for me, then I probably would have gone and got a chiller. But the fact is that it does work and keeps the temperature down. It never gets above 68, and that's all I need.
Mm-hmm.
But
Gotcha.
the main reason for controlling the temperature is to lessen the chance of having a bacterial infection. And that comes from things like the dissolved organics that are going to build up in your tank and other nutrients that will feed the bacteria and provide bedding when tanks have insufficient filtration and where husbandry is not sufficient to remove it in time before it does decay. No, it's not much more I can say about temperature other than that.
I think you did a perfect job. And Holly, have you noticed a huge difference since you did add the chillers?
I did in a bunch of ways. Well, because where I live, our summers are really hot. My house is really big and it's really expensive to run the HVAC. So my second summer with the seahorses, I mean at first I was using water bottles and fans, and that is a pain in the butt, and it still wasn't keeping temperatures as low as I wanted. I could take them down to like 74 or 73. So the second summer with the seahorses, I started running the air conditioning until I got the chillers. And when I got the chillers, it saved me almost $200 a month. They cost me about $30 a month to run both chillers, and they're on almost all the time. Um, they've been able to keep the tanks the right temperature. I figured out to plumb them. I didn't plumb them like it says to plumb them to the tank. I did mine from one end of the sump to the other, figuring, well, the water is going to spread around and go through anyway, but I didn't want hoses all over the place. So which I already have. so I'm like, well, let's see if that works. And it's working fine. The chillers I got, they're from a Chinese company. They were cheaper compared to everything else I saw. So they were $500 each instead of ones I was looking at were like $800, $1,000 or something for some, American ones. They were not easy to program. I had to talk back and forth with the company in China on
I remember
messenger app for them to tell me, because you have to push the buttons in a right order, the right thing to program them. But they were very helpful. It's just that we have opposite time zones.
Yep.
So I'd message them in my daytime and they'd message me back in the middle of the night, but got it all figured out. And I leave them plugged in year round. I leave both the heaters and the chillers year round, so I don't have to store anything, or water's flowing through. So it keeps it, going, and they just kick on when they need to. So yeah, I've been happy with them, especially, for the price and what it saved me electric wise and also labor wise. Because I'll tell you, changing out ice bottles and ice packs and fans and all that. I mean, you pretty much have to be around all the time to do that. Those ice packs, they don't last all day. They'll be melted in an hour.
Well, that's
full of stuff.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard when someone says, "Okay, I want to set up a seahorse tank. What do I need?" It's so vast. It depends on where you're located. I don't use chillers in my tank setup.
If you keep your house cool enough, if you're one of the people that runs your air conditioner or whatever, so you keep it at a low temperature, then that's fine. But our house gets to 85 in the summer.
Right. And that's why I've been working on, guys, I'm trying to do a new Seahorse tank setup video that's not an hour long like my first one, that will also include the chiller aspect and the UV sterilizer. I didn't even mention UV sterilizers in my first video because at that time I wasn't using them. I'm getting ready to show you my first tanks and you're going to be like, "What? You had a tank like that?" I'm going to show you. But Anna had a question real quick too. And I'll tell you also, my UV sterilizer, I tried to go cheap on it, you guys. I got a Sun, and I have the exact problem that Holly was just describing with her chiller. And I don't think I have a picture of that ready. I will have it next week, I promise. I will show you guys. But I literally can't do it and do this at the same time. But my pump goes to my UV sterilizer and then through it and then back up to the tank. So there's hoses and they look stupid and I hate it. My 65-gallon is not pretty, but I've really considered taking the UV sterilizer off. I do have a UV sterilizer in my 40-gallon all-in-one, but it's an all-in-one. It's just a drop through the tube. I don't know if the flow rate's correct. It's very important to have correct flow rate with the UV sterilizer. So all that being said, it's just really hard when you don't know where somebody's from. But Shyla wanted to know, I'm using a chiller because it's pretty hot here in Singapore. Do you guys get condensation on your tank screens?
Yes, on the front of the tank. I've noticed that, and I never thought about it actually until she just said it.
Really?
But it's because the temperature of the tank is so much cooler than the temperature of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's got to be it.
So do you just wipe it off?
Steam. I just ignore. I mean, I wipe it off if I'm going to take pictures.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not bad. Like mine, I could see and I can see some streaks where some water came down, but I keep rags. Like, I don't know if you see if I hold my computer right. So you can see I keep rags right in front of the tank, and you can kind of see what she's talking about, the condensation. You can see these lines coming down where water went, and yeah.
And the big orange thing,
It
Holly,
perfect.
and the big orange thing, Holly, is that like a specialty piece that you bought, or where'd you get that? The middle of the tank.
These orange corals, I have a couple of those are some resin coral decorations.
Love it. Love it.
Most stuff I find on Amazon.
And Ray, did you have any thoughts on condensation? I saw you were commenting, but
I just posted that the condensation on the glass is going to depend on what the humidity level is in the room that the tank is in. If you lower the humidity level with a dehumidifier, for instance, then you can eliminate that. But for a lot of people, it's not practical to go out and buy a dehumidifier just to lower that so you don't get the condensation, because at the same time it lowers lowers that level, it's going to make evaporation go at a faster rate because the surface of the water is now going to be in contact with lower level moisture content air.
absolutely.
I'll tell you, the fish tanks, the humidity in my house is high.
I was going to say that.
Compared to outside. We have low humidity in my climate, but in my house, the humidity is pretty high.
I remember Dan had me go out and buy one of the little, humidity checkers. I can't think of the word. What's it called? There's a word for it. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Anyways.
Hydrometer?
Yeah. Hydrometer.
Hydrometer.
I'll go get it and show you guys. Mine's but in fact, let me grab it. Let me grab it real quick.
I put a heat recovery ventilator in my house, so it brings in fresh air and goes through an exchanger and everything. And the cores that are in it, it's a double core unit, and depending on whether the outside is higher humidity than the inside, the water will come out from that core, go down the drain, and so I can end up with a lower humidity level in the house just because of that. In the wintertime especially, the outdoor air being cold doesn't have near the moisture in it. So that air coming in will take heat from the house air that's going outwards and warm up that incoming air, but the incoming air doesn't have the same kind of humidity in it as what that indoor air that's exiting has. So it lowers, it lowers my level.
And I'm not scientific, guys. You know that already. I'm not good with all the words and all the, whatever, but I just know that you can see mine now. Look at that. Bad, red, hot.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's
wow.
Now. And we do have a house that literally we have to change the furnace filters and stuff, or the air filters like twice a month. It's ridiculous. So it's just the house, period. Our windows don't open. They're like painted shut and such. So
wow.
well, one or two, but So we have a terrible problem with humidity. And when I had tanks all around the house, because at one point I had like 9 Seahorse tanks, and one of them was a 90-gallon, one of them was a 75. I had the 55-gallon reef, and then I had all these smaller Seahorse tanks with different species around the house, and just the evaporation and everything. And Dan used to tell me that he would go out into his fish room, and like the floors would be slick because it was so bad. I mean, it's just, if anybody out there knows how to control that, let me know for sure. Because
my living room, because I have a small living room and the tanks are all in one section. See, the grow out tank in here is in a separate part of the house, but in my living room, I've got the 55-gallon display tank with its sump, a 60-gallon tank with goldfish, and a 30-gallon freshwater tank. So in that room, it always feels warmer to me than anywhere else because the humidity is so high. And in this room, there's more space and big windows. And we open the windows at night to let, the cool air in and fresh air in. But because the living room has no windows, it's kind of closed off. The humidity in there, it just builds. And
well, luckily we went, because if there ends up problems because of it, I'm like, hey, you should have had me open windows that I could open. But I don't know.
That's why I had to put in my HRV. Like for me, I live in cold winter climate, and the windows that have so much condensation on them, because I had over 1,000 gallons of water with all the tanks and that. And if I hadn't have got the HRV in, the windows would have all rotted out, doors would have rotted out, God knows what all. But
let's all hope my landlord doesn't watch this episode, eh? But no,
hey, Wally, if she had never got into seahorses, she probably could have bought a house by now.
Right. True. True. And what's an HRV? No, actually, I do want to say I'm not perfect, and this year sucked, but I don't buy because I actually worked at a mortgage company, and I just know how bad things are, with that side of it. So it's just been easier to rent. But anyways, go ahead, Ray. What's the
HRV or the full words heat recovery ventilator?
Okay.
You can learn about them, and you can even get pages that'll explain how they work and how they get rid of that humidity.
HRV check, because obviously we need them again. Look at that shit. That's crazy. That's like almost maxing out.
I'd like to get, well, for that reason and others, we'd like to get like a whole house fan, an attic fan that pulls the air from in the house and pushes it outside. So that's on our to-do list for the house.
Anna says she has 2D. That's what Dan had me get. Dan's my go-to, guys. Every time I have a problem, I call him. And when my floors, when I had the 9 freaking tanks and half of them were huge, and every room, and I'm in this house that the windows don't open. I mean, that's why I knew the floor slick thing is because my floors got a little slick. You come home and it's like, is something leaking? And you'd be freaking out. And it's like, no, it's really just this air. And which is probably terrible for us, mold, who knows. And when I called Dan, he said he'd experienced that and that dehumidifiers work. So Anna, that's really smart. I did get one, but I probably should have had 4. But I don't have as many tanks now. It's still bad, obviously. I'm gonna have to pull it back out. What brand did you get, Anna? What did you like? What worked for you? And Cheryl, you're absolutely not blocked from this meeting. Absolutely not. We want you in here. I don't know why you can't get in. I promise I don't know. I can send you a new link maybe because we want to hear about your tubs. And what I'm going to say too is if Cheryl can't get into this meeting, she's absolutely not blocked. But next week, Cheryl, I have videos from you already. I'll be better prepared. And next week, you and I can show more of our tank setups. So we'll do like Cheryl show her setups early because I already have the videos. You'll just have to tell us what we're looking at. Does that sound good? I mean, if you can jump in today, I can try to find them, but I'll be more prepared next week anyways. But I did absolutely never would block you from this meeting ever. So don't think
Maybe
that.
send her a fresh link. I wonder if there's something with the
will.
link might need to
Try a
be
different
fresh.
browser.
I will right now. And wait, you guys got to talk while I do it, or it's dead air. Anna said, Holly, do you want to read what Anna was talking about here that she hasn't? Just read that off while I try to
Oh,
figure this
yeah.
out.
So her sump has a protein skimmer, a UV sterilization pump, filter cups in back that she swapped to from sock so she can fill with filter wool. Okay, and swap out. And she has bio block sponge, bio balls,
Next
and
part.
looks like a comma heater. And she uses charcoal and phosphate guard and chateau algae. I don't know what that is. What's
Yeah.
chateau algae?
I don't know either. No idea. And then I think there was one more comment.
Keto. Maybe it's keto.
Oh, keto.
CHAETO.
You're probably right. Let us know, Anna. And then read the next, Holly.
The UV sterilizer is in the sump and piped through the main pump. In tank, you only see the return pump arms. So all her stuff is in the sump or in between.
Smart.
Kind of like mine.
See, the only thing, I mean, I'm gonna, well, actually, I'll just show you guys my pictures now. But again, we'll do videos from Cheryl and I. Okay, I'm so sorry, but I'll have videos from Cheryl's tubs, and maybe her tanks if I can get with her on the side and make sure she's here and we figure out the computer problem. And then I will also do videos. I'll find the videos of my old tanks and I'll make videos of the two I have running right now because I only have 2 tanks running at this point. But I did want to share a few pictures just to show you guys. This is when you get to see, oh my gosh, the Seahorse Whisperer started out with that. What the hell? Because you can start off and grow. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to shut up and try to share it. Here we go. So let's start off with, okay. This was my first tank. And you guys have seen it in the magazine, but you didn't see how it started out, right? So I don't know how to make it big, though. I'm sorry, but we're probably going to have to look at my whole iCloud. My bad. How could I make that big? I don't know. Anyways, so I don't even know how to, there we go. So it literally had a hang-on back filter. I put crate. I don't know what that's called. It's not egg crate. It was like a shelving unit over the top so that I could just set a light on it. I mean, it was really and then no something anywhere. I did use macros right away. And this is before I had even met Dan. You can see a power head in there, but that was about it. That was it. That was the whole tank. I think I had a second power head in the back down there. And then underneath, I apparently was already having fry, or maybe that was our team. I don't know. It was a long time ago and all my crap. So no sump. And then let's see if I can.
What size tank did you start with, Kelly? What was your
29
first?
gallons. 29. I had no idea. And I had 4 seahorses in there. 4. I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm just saying. And then I eventually, let me see if I can.
Pretty much how I started too.
So eventually, and this was not pretty because I just literally had to set this sump on the floor. Whoops, I keep hitting the wrong thing here. Set this sump. I got from Home Depot or Lowe's. Someone suggested getting that styrofoam padding. Do you know what you guys want to know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So I got styrofoam padding, cut it the side because I had to set this sump on the floor. Obviously, that stand was not going to fit a sump. So beside that tank you just saw, I added this sump, and it wasn't pretty. It literally went up to an overflow box. And the reason I showed these pictures though is because this is the not homemade. Ronald Chinners made me this algae scrubber. This is when it was first set up. So obviously it's not green at this point, but it was really cool. Let me see if I can go through the pictures. So it was like it had a drip tray, and then it had 2 like slightly angled in where the water would flow in straight into the algae. And he made this for me custom, and underneath there was a big hole, so the water just went down, into the pump. And this was on one side, and then I had a big skimmer, and then I had the return pump, and that was it. But I did add the sump for the water volume and algae scrubber, which made a huge difference. I think I have a few more pictures of them. Just it had screen on two sides, and the benefit to the screen on two sides was that I could pull one, harvest that algae, and then have a fresh start, but still keep the other side, so I wasn't like tearing it all off and starting over every time. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But
So I've never really seen an algae scrubber. So what algae grows on those panels, and then you wash them off now and then? Is that
okay? So
yeah.
how it actually works? Okay, so there's a drip tray with there's holes. You can barely see them, but there's holes all
Okay.
through this hot plastic piece. Two plastic edges that make the water go straight onto the screens. They're mesh screens.
Okay.
So
it's like window screen, kind of like
kind of, they're mesh. They're thicker than window screen, and
Okay.
basically you just leave it. You can try to seed it. You can try to add algae. I didn't. I just left it, and it'll turn brown, and it'll get real ugly, and then it'll start growing hair algae, and then every week or two you pull hair algae off, and it's literally pulling nutrients out of the tank. It's algae scrubbers are the bomb. I'm just telling you all.
Nice. Nice.
And like I said, the benefit to having two screens on each side, right here and right here, is that the problem with some algae scrubbers is using only one screen, and you pull it because you can't let it get too long or it stops working. And not only does it stop working, but if the algae gets too big, like if I don't know if you can see my arrow, but if the algae starts growing on the screen and it's green and it's hairy and it's gross, but it gets out to here, then the algae underneath is dying because it's not getting any light. And I'll show you the light. You can see it a little bit, but I'll show it to you in a minute. And basically, you don't want that. So the second it gets like a 1/4 inch thick, you got to pull that screen and tear all the algae off. I've got a video somewhere of me cleaning one. It's really gross. But then you put it back in. And the benefit to two is if you only have one and you tear all the algae off, then it's got to kind of restart. It's already seeded, but it still takes a minute to get it going. With two, you constantly have one that's doing the work and the other one is restarting. So let me see what other pictures I got in here. That's the light that went, like, basically he made this all for me. So this went under the side of the tank, and then the light angled to the screens. So I don't know if I have a full picture. I'll try to have one for next week. I don't know what that is. That's the top, just showing you that I had to plumb it in. And then the screens. Let's see what other pictures. I know this isn't great, guys. I'll do better next time. There's a side view, I guess. There's the top view of the drip tray, and kind of a full view. You see the pump over there. I may not have even had the skimmer yet, to be honest. This is when I first started, you guys. I knew nothing.
I don't see a skimmer.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you tomorrow. There is one now on the 65. There's the top. Oh, I also put floss over the drip tray so it would catch any big bits, and you can see the lights angled up to it. It kicks butt. I love that scrubber, and I love Ronald for making it for me because it really, really works. Let me see what else I got. I think I just showed a picture of covering your power heads. That's one thing that I made another video about. I just literally use zip ties and that same mesh stuff. And so this is how that tank ended up. And you can see the overflow box that went to the sump on the floor. It literally was on the floor. But I mainly use macros. So, that was my main thing. I don't know if I'm sure I did add a skimmer event, but it started like, where's that first picture? It started like this. Kept growing. It wasn't great. It wasn't pretty, and ended up, this was a top down.
The sumps aren't pretty. Like, mine's definitely not pretty. It's crazy down there, but it does its job. That's the thing. When you were talking about the foam that you put underneath, that reminds me what I use underneath my sumps are yoga mats from the thrift store. I buy those rubbery yoga mats for cheap. They're only a couple bucks when you find them in a thrift store. And then I get those plastic place mats from the dollar
Mhm.
store and layer them over the top of that. So it's plastic, it's waterproofed. And that's what I
Yep.
use to set the sumps on top of.
Nice. Well, you're always better when you get a tank where you can put the sump underneath, for darn sure. I mean, my reef looked nice because the sump was under the stand, you know?
Yeah, none of
I
mine
hate
are
putting
like
sumps
that.
on the floor. I hate it, but I mean, if you need a sump, I'm just saying you can add it. Cause like I said,
Mhm.
I started this tank like this with nothing, 4 seahorses in a 29 gallon, because I took care of the macro. It
Mhm.
turned out like this, and I added the sump and the
Mhm.
return, and that had the algae scrubber in it, which was doing the reverse light cycle and all that good stuff. And then when the 4 seahorses got just too big for this tank, it was a 29 gallon. They were little then, you can see, but
Mhm.
they just got too big. Then I went with a company. I'm going to have to look up the name, but again, you can see I stupidly got a stand that wouldn't fit a sump again, dummy. But I had handmade dry rock. I mean, I still have
Uh-huh.
that in the 65. So they moved over to the 65. And of course, I got too tall of a tank. So none of the macro did very well in there, because in this tank, it was right under the light, right? You know, I mean, it got
Yeah,
direct
yeah.
light. In this tank, I ended up adding an SB, what is it? SBF? No, it's SB reef light, excuse me, over it, and it was just too tall. The Gorgonians still did well, but the macros just did not. I also wanted to show you guys, before I went to the tubs, this was my fry setup. Just so
Oh,
you
yeah. That looks familiar.
just so you
That
understand. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And I
yeah.
did seahorses alive using this ridiculous ass method. I mean,
Yeah, that looks like mine pretty much. I had a round, I think it was like a 3 gallon from Walmart,
yep.
a plastic round 3 gallon tank, and that's what Sadie grew up in.
Well,
And
that's
then I moved them. I mean, once they were eating frozen and getting a little bigger, when they were a few months old, I had to set up a regular tank for them. So I gave them the 29 gallon that is my freshwater tank now. And I raised them in that. But because it didn't have adequate filtration, I had to change the water like every other day. But
well,
yeah, they survived it.
I was just gonna say, you can see these are recently collected fry from the adult tank. I'm
Yeah.
moving them into the bowl. I had to separate them because I knew that density mattered. So I'd
Yeah.
put so many in here, so many in here. And then I had stages. Like that nasty thing back there was for Artemia. You can see a little bit. It was
Mhm.
the Artemia. But this, I think, was just a 3.5. And I think that
Yeah.
was, no, I think this was 5 and this was 10. So I'm just saying, when we get on here and we talk about, oh, you really want to do the tubs, you do. If you're looking to commercially breed fry or be
Mhm.
very successful, you need a sea shed like Heather, or you need tubs like Cheryl. And I did eventually set up the tubs, and I will again, because it is the best method. But I work it, you can still do it at a hobbyist level using some
Yeah,
base.
you can. You can.
And
You won't have the high survival rates.
right,
Like you're not going to raise 100 baby seahorses in a 10 gallon tank, but you'll have a few.
right. And I
You
would
know,
just
the
say,
way I see it too is, especially when you're beginning, what are you going to do with 100 baby
right.
seahorses? Anyway, you have to find homes for them.
Wait a minute. Let me go through the process of the pictures here if I can. I'm not doing a very good job. I'm sorry. I'll do a video for next week, I promise. But so just basically saying, as you can see, like Holly described, this is just open airlines. So I was in a sponge filter back there and a sponge filter right here, but that's it. That's all I had for filtration on my fry. And
Mhm.
I would have to do some major rinsing of the Artemia. Look how dirty that water looks. And well, it had phyto in it, but and I was literally scooping the babies out of the adult tank and putting them in these little things, getting the airline set up. That was a
I use
bubble.
Dixie cups. I use the little bathroom Dixie cups to rescue
Mhm.
them out of the big tank, because in my display tank, that hood is so close to the top of the tank, an actual drinking glass will not fit in the space.
Yep.
So I
Well,
have to use little Dixie cups and transfer them to a bigger container. I use like goldfish bowls like you have there, and bigger cups, whatever you have.
not the best method, folks. If you do this trying to raise fry, you're going to be doing 100%. And that's the other thing I would do is once it dwindled down, because I, of course, didn't have huge success rates using this method, I would end up having them in this bowl one day and then, bleach and clean this one
Yeah,
and then
just
switch
change them
them
to
day
the
to
other.
day to day. Pain
Yeah.
in the boudoir, I'll just tell you. And the sponge filters did help. And I actually have a video, I'll try to link it when I'm done, of 3 seahorses that made it for probably 6 months in this tank.
Mhm.
And they were a good 2 inches by the time I finally moved them. And they did great. And they moved to the 29 gallon, because that was the seahorses from the 29 moved. If you do seahorses and you want to breed, you're going to end up with more tanks. I can just tell you that. But I just wanted to show that, you can have some success. And in fact, I think just to show you how, okay, that's little Cheryl. That's the
Aw.
first, no, that's little Cheryl. I'm so sorry. The blonde is the little Cheryl. This is her younger brother. And there was only 3 seahorses and this was a 10-gallon tank that I stuffed with macro thinking that would work out. I will just mention to you, and then you can see it's a hang on the back filter.
Yeah.
I will just mention to you that while the macros do help, I did not have a sump on this tank. And these 2 seahorses were the ones that I ended up having to treat for the bacterial infection. Now, I will say also that their tank spiked because my air conditioning went out. So it's mainly temp based, but keeping them in that small tank when they were a good, almost 2 inches, it just doesn't work long term, in my opinion. But I'm just trying to show I did it. You can do it. No judgment. Let me see what other pictures I got here. This is the 90-gallon basic tank that I ended up moving them to. Oh, I guess my daughter's talking during this.
Aw,
It's like,
how cute.
Like a mermaid pond.
They're holding tails. How cute.
There's one right there.
okay, so that was just the 90-gallon that I ended up having to upgrade to when I had a bunch of babies. These are all babies from my stock. What other pictures do I got in here? Let's see. I showed you guys that. I think that might be it for today. I will try to do more next week. Yeah, I showed all these, didn't I? Oh, okay. Finally, I did want to show this is not my tank, just to be clear. These were tanks that were the pictures were shared for a previous video in the Seahorse Keeping Fun group. And I just wanted to show them because they're so beautiful. I believe this was Briley's. I'll put the credits to the people whose tanks they are in the description. But I mean, this is so clean looking. If you can start off doing things right, you're going to have an easier time, is all I got to say. I mean, these are nice tanks with the sump underneath. Everything looks pretty. Everything's clean. They've got the power heads. They've got the sump. Even though they're different methods, one uses more technical stuff, one uses algae. It's just, I definitely do recommend a sump. That's all. And I thought I had one more video. Maybe I do. This is another hang on the back Seahorse tank. I mean, I had tons of them, you guys. Macros and hang on back. I think that's a hang on the back skimmer back there. If I finally figure out skimmers. So anyways, all right, I'm done sharing for today. But I will show you my current tanks. Wait, I know I had a current tank video. Hang on. Let me look. I know it didn't have the char chamber in it yet, but oh, here it is. Okay, hang on. Let me show this last one. And then I'll do a better video that'll show the char chamber for next week. But here is the 40-gallon all-in-one, just the sump part. So it's got the sock, K1, skimmer, UV sterilizer, and then the tank with rock. And that's it. That's all I'm running with. I do keep a, now there's a char chamber in there, which I'll show you guys next week. And I do keep a canister on hand for that tank because if something blows out of whack with such small water volume, I want to be able to clear it up quick. And one of the things Dan taught me is keep a canister not on the tank, not constantly running, but in case you can stuff it full of whatever you need, whether it be a remover, whether it be floss, and clear up your tank really quickly. Because if you don't have a sump going, it's just a good thing to have on the side. So I think that's it for me today. Ray, any thoughts about my crazy ass tanks?
I'd say you did pretty well.
For starting out, right?
Well, you probably did better than I did when I started out.
What was your first tank like?
Well, it didn't look anything like that. I've never had any Seahorse tank look as good as the one you had with all the macro in it and so on. And I would guess that I probably couldn't have done it if I tried. I can make a reef tank look good, but I never even, I guess, never ever got the bug to get into doing it with the Seahorses, because my whole thing was, when I started there 19 years ago, the whole thing was to get myself successful in keeping them for a long time. And when I could only keep them a year or a year and a half or something, that was so frustrating.
Yep.
And then when I finally found what I needed to do, I just never got around to trying to do something, making it more complicated. Well, by then my spine had gotten a lot worse anyway. And so I ended up dropping the reef tanks and everything and just keeping the Seahorse tanks. But it was the numbers of tanks that I had. The whole basement was filled with tanks from between 40 gallons and 90 gallons.
Absolutely. Believe me, I had 6 different species in this house at one point. I get that's why I had all these small tanks that I had to do all this maintenance on. It was a pain in the butt because a lot of people ask, can you plumb the Seahorse tank into the reef tank, or can you plumb Seahorse tanks together? And there's just, especially if you're talking about different species, there's just so much danger in that. I just wouldn't do it. So I'd rather have a smaller tank that I had to do maintenance on constantly versus having it all share one big sump. I try any big tank I added sumps, and usually what would happen is I'd get a species being like a 30-gallon. I would care for them, make sure they did well. If they started breeding, they'd progress to a bigger tank because I had more of them to put in a bigger tank. That's why I ended up with so many tanks. But I just kind of wanted to show, and Ray, if I had known you and Cheryl and Dan when I first started, I probably never would have even tempted with the macros. I'm glad I did, because that was a beautiful tank and I just loved it. And the Seahorses loved it too. But I did end up, having problems, hydroids, because of the macros. So it's all about what you're willing to risk and, what your goals are. If you want to breed, and you don't want anything in the tank, you want it to be as basic and easy as possible because you just want the babies. If you want a beautiful, tank, macros, gorgonians, all that stuff works. Just you got to know the risks, I would say. And what do you sent me a link. Okay, Ray, I'll put
That's
that.
the one that I have.
Okay.
That's the HRV.
Gotcha. All right. I will put that in the comments too for other people. And so, guys, I apologize. I wasn't as prepared as Holly, but I will show you guys at the beginning of next week my current tanks and just go through what skimmer as she did. And I'll show you how they're set up. I'm still on the 65. I'll show you the char chamber and the 40. So look forward to that next week. I'll make them quick, but I will make them. And I'm going to get with Cheryl on the side, make sure she can get in here. And we're going to, I already have her videos on the tubs and some of her tanks. And she can just show us, talk to us while we're showing pictures or videos of her tanks too. Anybody else who wants to share their tanks, send me pictures. Even if you don't want to come in the video and talk, we can show it and we can ask you questions in the comment section, like Andrea, send me some pictures. or Anna or anybody. And yeah, she said it was Chato, by the way. Cato, however you say it. So send us pictures of your tank or post, comment on one of the posts that we post. And we'd be happy to share your tanks too and kind of go through what works for you because everybody's tank's different. Holly, I feel like you want to say something. I'm rambling.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you so much for making that video, by the way. The videos, excuse me. I should have done that too. I will for next week. And Ray, if you find any videos of your tanks, it doesn't matter if you don't still have them. If you find videos of them, send them to me so we can watch them and ask you what that was, or pictures even, and be like, well, what's that, Ray? What does that do? Why is that?
Basically, the only thing I have is just what's on my website. Just
Well,
showing. There's nothing with any fancy tanks. Very few pictures of like a full picture of a tank. For the most part, it's showing various species that I've had over the years, and I don't know. It wasn't my thing to take pictures like that. If I was gonna, or anything I took full tank pictures of, that was my reef tanks.
Right.
My main reef tank. The ones, the feeders that where I grew stuff up to get it to the main one. I never took too many pictures out of there, I don't think.
I want to see a 6-foot skimmer.
Right. I'll get pictures. I know where the pictures are.
What does that look like?
I will
What was
show
that,
them.
Molly?
I said, I want to see a 6-foot skimmer.
Well, I posted sometimes the picture of the one that I dialed up a little bit too high, and stuff was coming out the box and onto the ceiling.
Yep, I have that picture. I will show everybody next week. I'll have his pictures, Cheryl's pictures, my pictures ready, and we'll share. And any of your pictures, I'll do a post probably tomorrow and just say, hey, if you want your picture shown and you're going to come to Wine Wednesday, comment the picture or the video. That way I can share it and you can talk us through it, or even in the comment section, answer questions. Because, I think, as you can see, my tanks did not start out perfect, for darn sure. And, we all grow and learn. And my first tank was probably one of my favorites because of the macros. It wasn't smart, but it was so pretty. And the seahorses did love it. And, we all learn from each other. So definitely sharing. And I'll show you guys my UV sterilizer that's stupidly positioned on the side of my tank. It looks so dumb. But
maybe before next week, you could get together with Cheryl and arrange a time for you to go on here and get her to try and go on at that time.
I will
see if you can iron out the bugs that she has.
That's exactly what I'm going to do, Ray. Exactly, because we need Cheryl back. I have her video and her pictures of her tubs, but I didn't want to play them without her here, so she has to answer questions. So we will do that next week. I was going to say something else, but I can't even think of it now. I thought I had to say something else. Damn it. Sorry, guys. Wine Wednesday. It's getting whiny. My significant other calls it whiny Wednesday because I run around when we're late. I run around the house screaming at everybody saying, my computer's not working. Turn on the light. They're waiting. So it's whiny Wednesday to him. But anyhow, so more video and pictures next week. Me and Cheryl and Ray will kind of take our turn. And what else, you guys? Anything else we got to cover? Or? I don't have a new day. Oh, last thing I do want to say is if you guys are planning on attending MACNA, I'm going to get a post up this week. We are still going to do the Seahorse and Pipefish event at MACNA. It will be in person, so you have to actually be going, but I'll probably try to do something online too. So just watch for that post. And if you're going, please be sure to sign up and share the post so that anybody else knows to come, because I'm last minuting it here. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to go. So, and Women in Reefing. But that's it for me tonight, I think. Holly, thank you again for sharing. And all you guys in the comment section, thank you for sharing. And next week, if you guys want to jump in and share your tanks live, we can do that too, for sure. I'll let you know when Dan's going to come back for Ask Seahorse Source Part 4. And we'll make sure for sure that Cheryl's here next week. I'll work it out. But I think that's it. I don't think I missed any questions. Are we good for tonight, guys?
Sounds good to me.
Ending before 2 hours, and Ray stayed the whole time. Holy moly.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
there's
oh,
a link to the skimmer.
yep. Hang on, I'll really quick show that if I can,
All right.
and then we'll go. So here is Ray's, maybe. Here's Ray's. Oh, did I not hit share? Okay. Here is Ray's DIY skimmer. Oh my God. Hitting the freaking ceiling.
Oh, wow.
And it literally, on this site, which I'll share the link in the description, it literally shows how it works, how he made it. I mean, he goes through the instructions. Look at that, Holly. See it?
Yeah.
Hey, is that like an overflow box or is that Tupperware?
Yeah, it's an overflow box, but like it's different from the one in the top picture. The top picture was a cube that I had, but for the other ones, they were all they all had that one just sitting off the side like that. But I had to clean them out a lot more often than the big cube one. The one with the big cube that was on my 90-gallon reef tank, and the other ones were on my smaller reef tanks, the 75s and the 65s.
I've always thought it was cool when I've seen people use like not mud, but like Miracle Mud or whatever buckets that are outside the tank. And I've always thought that's cool, but I'm so bad at plumbing. That scares the shit out of me. I'll just be real. And did you like just take that off and empty it every week?
Well, I
Or
emptied it as it needed. Like each tank was different, and I had some tanks where you had to service the skimmer maybe every 3 or 4 days, and then I had some that would probably go 10 or 12 days. And that would be with tanks the same size. You would have that variation, but the variation was because the contents were different.
And I'm gonna ask Dan too the next time he's here because I'm curious because this is like 5,000 times better, but because it's on the outside, isn't that technically kind of like a hang on the back skimmer? I know it's bigger and better, but I'm just saying, I just wonder what all the tubing does to the pressure and like you obviously didn't usually have a problem except for then.
I had like for one of those skimmers, if you took the biggest air pump that you could find in most LFSs, you'd probably have to use 4 or 5 of them to get them to work.
Wow.
In my case, I'm trying to think of I can't think of the name now. AP 100s or something.
Sounds right.
I
You're talking
forget.
about a huge butted thing, right?
They were meant for ponds,
Yep.
and the
Yep.
output is just fantastic. But I have 2 of them, so I could run 6 of these skimmers.
How often did you had to clean the like tubing? Like, cause
Oh,
mine, I have to clean it often.
well, it would sludge up, but the thing is, the more often you clean it, the longer it takes to get it back in service again. Once you clean it, it takes a while to get a coating built up on the inside there for it to work as effective.
So wait, I have a question about that though, Ray, because like, so one of the things Dan said is, people forget to clean the neck of their skimmers. Like they leave the gunk in there. I completely understand what you're saying, that the skimmer worked better when it had the coating because you had it tuned in and you knew what it was going to do. But just like you always say, snails in the tank still create organics. You're not really removing them because they're still pooping. If the stuff's still sitting in the skimmer, isn't it still affecting the tank?
Well, see, most of the time, what's coating it there, you can see the
Coralline.
coralline.
Yeah. Okay.
And to clean them, I actually used a toilet brush that was fastened to a pole. And the top part of that comes off, so it's basically a 4-inch diameter inside.
Wow.
And I'd run the toilet brush down there with the stick. I'd have to turn it on an angle, of course, and run the toilet brush down to the bottom and back up, and that would free things. Then run through some salt water to clear out the guck in that. And obviously, this isn't going into the tank. This is going into 5-gallon buckets.
Right.
But I didn't do that. I can't remember now how often I did that, but it wasn't all that often. Maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year.
Well, yeah, and well, I mean, you obviously know better because you used them, but like any of these hoses and stuff, that just scares me. What's the white around there? What's the white right there? Can you see where I'm pointing?
Just a sec, I'll have to go over and look at my.
It should be on the screen, shouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, is it now? Okay. This thing. It looks like a tie or something.
I got some white fittings that screw into black stuff, but
Maybe that's it.
I'm not sure what that is. There, just
No big deal. This all scares me. Like, did it ever leak?
well, just in case, each one of these sat in a dollar store pail.
Oh, smart. So
But
even
the
if
thing
it
was,
did leak,
like, everything was sort of proofed so that if I did have a problem, there was an overflow on each container. Like on that 1 second from the bottom there, you can see the tube there coming from the container back
Yep.
into a stand-up pipe there. So if it got too high, it would just automatically go through that pipe and back in the system. Everything came out of the tank. So if something screwed up, and put it back in again. So I just remedied the problem and take it out again. That's all.
No,
But it
that's
meant
smart. I'm sorry.
I
Go
didn't
ahead.
have a flood problem.
And Ray, somebody's going to look at this, and it kind of just looks like a homemade skimmer, but it looks the same size as like my 180. How tall is this again?
The top one where that box is, that's the ceiling is 7 foot high.
Jeez.
Wow.
The others are only 6 foot.
They're 6 foot high.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Ideally, I would have had, say, a specific room set up with, like, if I only had 1 tank or maybe 2 tanks, I would have an area behind the tank, which would be a room to put equipment and stuff in, and the sump would go in there, and you wouldn't see it.
Right.
But I had so many tanks, I didn't have any room in the basement to make rooms for service stuff, so it just sat exposed.
Well, no shame in your game, Ray. That's Dan. When I went down to Florida to visit him because I wanted to videotape him showing me through the equipment in the tubs, he didn't chicken out, but he was like, "It's not pretty, Kelly. It doesn't look good."
Like my sump.
Right, exactly. If if it's doing the good work, it's probably not going to be pretty. So just depends on what you're after. But that's really cool, Ray.
But
And
very effective and cheap.
yeah, and shows you exactly how to do it.
And they were made with stuff that I had availability to. I didn't have to buy it.
I was going to ask you, what is the tube? What is this?
Some of it is ABS, 4-inch ABS, and some of it is 4-inch PVC. The PVC stuff I got from a cable company that was laying cable for Rogers Cable Service here in Canada.
Wow.
And these were pieces that were cut off, and they were too short to be bothered using in underground situations, because they were putting these things in 20-foot lengths. And so they'd get to a spot where they had to cut one, and then I got these things free, the cutoffs. I just painted them black. But
That is so cool.
I had some black ABS that I made my first one with. And that was something I had left from a project that I had done that had nothing to do with aquariums or anything. I can't remember for sure what it was. But my very first skimmer was actually 2-liter pop bottles with the tops cut out and the bottoms cut out. And they were silicone together to make it about 4 foot tall, just to experiment with to see if I could make this thing work the way I wanted. I had lots of pop bottles and it was free. Didn't have to buy anything. So that was how I made my first one.
Okay, well, this is awesome, but Anna, I'm right there with you. Anna said, "Oh my goodness, I think I'll stick to my big, all done, bought skimmer empty tub on clean tubs occasion or tubes occasionally. I think I need easy. That's too technical." Right. And I absolutely adore people like Ray who do the DIY stuff. Oh my gosh. Reef Dudes does all this DIY stuff. He's so cool. I think it's ingenious, but I'm right there with you. I'm so afraid I would screw something up I mean, hell, my 90-gallon tank that I plumbed leaked. The sump leaked. I did something wrong, you know? So I'm all about put together, do it for me, easy enough, you know. But it's still cool to see these things. And for someone who likes to DIY, I think we should have an episode where we all share our hatcheries. Because I think Holly, you prefer the one and done, right? Like it's just you buy them.
Sorry, I was just out of the room. What were you asking about a hatchery?
I was just saying we were comparing DIY to buying something that's already put together and you don't have to worry about it messing up or whatever. And aren't you the one that uses the square box hatcheries? Or am I wrong?
I do. My main hatcheries are cones, but
Okay.
I like the boxes because they tell me when the hatch is done because they swim up in the little bottle and then I know the ones in the cones are going to be done too. And I use them. Yeah, I use them intermittently because I'll use the ones in the box hatcheries for a backup. But yeah, that was the
Gotcha.
first kind I had, and I kind of like them, so I do use them. Of course, I
Well,
haven't had fry in 2 years, so I haven't hatched any shrimp in a while.
right. Well, I was just gonna say anybody who is hatching Artemia or brine shrimp, we should do something. I'll do a post or something to see your hatchery because with that DIY is the way. I've never bought a hatchery. Mine are inverted 2-liter bottles. I mean, I am not playing with that stuff. Ray, did you always buy hatcheries or did you make them?
I've never bought one.
Me either.
If you go to
No.
my brine shrimp page, you'll see all the containers. I started off with 2-liter bottles, went to 1 gallon or 4-liter jars, and then I went to 5-gallon water bottles that I cut the bottoms out of and inverted them and put a valve in the bottom.
One of my favorites is the circle hatchery. They came out with one that's like a circle, and it's got a little cup in the middle that you pick up, and it strains out the water, so all you get are the brine shrimp. I love that little thing. Works really well.
Yeah.
Sorry. And when I'm trying to go to your website to see the different pages, it's not letting me. Send me a link to just the basic, the first page. You know what I mean? Just when you have time. We can show it next week if we don't get it done tonight. But Seahorse Corner, I saw you jumped in late. No worries at all. Just glad you're here. We did show Holly's videos of her tank setups earlier. So if you have time later, watch them. And we're going to show Cheryl's and mine next week because Cheryl couldn't log in tonight for some reason. And I wasn't prepared, to be honest. And if you would like to jump in and show how you set up Seahorse tanks next week, we're game to, of course, have you as usual. And let me see if I can share what Ray is sharing now. And then we are going to end soon, guys. But I'm sorry now that everybody comes. I apologize, but it's so late for me. All right. Let me see if I can find the right page here. Okay. So this is what Ray just shared. Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Ray, what are we looking at?
That's a styrofoam container that I use to set things up in. And so I would hatch out in the 3 2-liter bottles there first, and then transfer them into the 4 4-liter jars, and then transfer them into those 5-gallon inverted water bottles.
Wow.
And then there's the 5-gallon one set up, and then into
holy moly
26-gallon Rubbermaid containers.
How many were you hatching at a time? How much were you doing?
Each container, each of those Rubbermaids would handle a teaspoon of cis, and that would produce, if you know the standard brine shrimp net with the brown handles. They're about, oh, I don't know, 3x4 or something like that.
Yep.
You
Yep.
could pretty well fill that with the harvest of a tablespoon of brine shrimp.
This is an elaborate setup, though. Oh my gosh. Again, I'd be afraid it would leak if I plumbed it. But
Actually, I got those recycle things. Now, people were stupid. They would put those in recycle bins instead of taking them back and getting their $5 back. And
right.
I would collect them out of the bins when I found them, and I managed to get 3 of them. And so I did have to buy the valves that are sticking in the bottom.
Yep.
The elbows and stuff that I had, they were left over from another bathroom project that I had. So basically, I try to do things and make use of things I have. I don't throw things out. My house is full of junk. Some of the stuff I moved in here in 1976, and I've got stuff I've never used since then, but I've accumulated a lot over those years. But then again, I can go along and all of a sudden I'll decide I want to do something, and I'll start looking around, seeing what I have, and can I
Yep.
make it with the things I have. And I'll find something maybe I've had for 20 years and never done anything with it, but now all of a sudden I can use it.
I think that's genius. And Ray, I would just say, whenever you're done with them, you can send me these because I would use them. Those are so cool. And so basically, you had airlines going in. I know how a hatchery works, but what's in there? What's in that middle one? It looks like sponge.
Nope, that's just the color because of the brine shrimp.
Gotcha. And then it came down through, and you would
The
just
airline sits right down in the throat, like the neck of the bottle.
Yep.
That's actually the top of the bottle, and
Yep.
and the valving and that it's PVC and it's fiberglass into the neck of the bottle. It's used
So
fiberglass kitty hair. It's used for auto body stuff. But
yeah, I don't know what that is, but so is there something stopping the brine shrimp from going down there until you open the valve?
Well,
Is that the kitty hair or whatever?
you see the airline. You can see the airline better in that left one there.
Okay.
The airline goes down and it sits in the neck of the bottle.
Okay.
And the air coming up keeps everything in circulation. And the crap that, like the feces that the brine shrimp produce and their molts and that, they settle down, but they also get thrown back up again when they settle down to the bottom because of this, the airline that is
Gotcha.
going into the neck of the bottle.
And so when you were ready to collect, you would just light up the top or no, you wouldn't light up the top because you want them at the bottom. So
No.
The crap went to the top.
I actually, depending on whether I wanted a little bit, if I wanted a little bit, I would net them out and
Gotcha.
put them into a bottle and enrich them and use them, because these are adults, these aren't small ones.
Right.
And so I'd enrich them that way. But if I had to take a batch over to the stores that I was supplying, then I would open the valve up and let them run into a container. The first little bit it would take out some of the crap with it, and I just set that aside. And then after that, I'd capture these all in large nets that were sitting inside another net that had a lot of silicone in the net to allow the water to build up.
Gotcha.
And so that meant they were running into the inside net, but there was always water in it, and they weren't getting drawn against the side of the mesh net to suffocate.
Gotcha. Last question. Did you actually use like feeds for the Artemia, like Phyto or whatever you were using?
I've used those 3 for brine shrimp, and I've used them for rotifers.
Gotcha.
Mainly, I didn't start the rotifers until after I started using the Rubbermaid garbage pails.
Gotcha.
I think the garbage pails were about 32 gallons, but because they're tilted on a slant and can't fill them right up, then it was about 26 gallons of water in them.
Wow. That's great. Well, I just remember when you first started with Fry, you had them in, you kept them in the Fido, right?
Oh, you mean the fry? Yeah, that was 4-liter jars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to share that next week. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ray. I was just gonna show real quick, guys. I will put this link if you want to read. He really goes through it. We're gonna have Ask Seahorse Source Part 4 that goes over hatcheries and Fry soon, but we're gonna share this too for sure. Go ahead, Ray. What were you gonna say?
Just to correct some people's misconceptions,
Yes.
brine shrimp do not filter feed like, say, a clam or some worms do. They filter out like some worms do with appendages.
You mean their little hairy arms?
Yeah, with brine shrimp, they have to capture appropriate sized particles with the legs that they provide motion with, and then they pass it along with their other appendages through a channel to get to their mouth to pass it into the digestive tract. They aren't taking the water and the food in through their mouth and filtering it out inside their digestive tract.
So they're actually eating it.
Yeah, I guess you could
Okay.
say that, but like they're putting it in their digestive tract with their appendages. They have different appendages for different things, and they actually
Little
change as
baby
they
things.
go through different stages.
Anna said, makes my 2-liter Coke bottle setup look a bit silly, and that's why I gave up. So clever. Listen, I still use inverted Coke bottles, okay? It works for me.
I've got
The
a
one
page
thing,
there too, mine. There is a
what
page
was
on
it?
my set to the 2-liter bottles that I use.
Yeah, see? And I was going to say, the one thing that Dan will say on Ask Seahorse Source Part 4 is one thing I realized is I kept using the same 2-liter bottle. And anytime you clean it and scratch it and anything, every single little scratch, bacteria grows in it.
Yep.
So if you're not really cleaning the crap out of it, how often did you clean all that, Ray?
Clean all which?
Like everything, like your containers.
Well, every
I
time a
didn't
new
get scratched.
batch, every time I had to put a new batch in.
You did. Okay. And how did you clean them?
Basically with bleach, but I had
Yep.
sponges that I would clean the inside of them with. And once they were cleaned that way, then I'd spray the bleach around in them, then rinse them all out till there was no smell of bleach left. It was a little bit more involved with the garbage pails.
Yeah.
I would have to siphon everything out first, and then I'd take them into the laundry room, and I'd set it up on the dryer so the opening was over top of the sink, and then I'd use a short length of hose on the faucet that I'd put a hose spray nozzle on. You know, these trigger nozzles used
Yep.
for gardens and that. And I
Yep.
put it on jet, and I would jet it around the whole thing. When I get all the gummy stuff off, put it down, then I'd use an old work sock and then clean the whole inside of it with the work sock, and then rinse it again, then bleach it, then put it back on surface.
Wow. And last question, and I got one for Holly, but then we're gonna do Seahorse Corners comment. But Ray, did you use the peroxide trick when you were hatching Artemia?
I used the peroxide on the Artemia, but I used the bleach for cleaning stuff because it's so much cheaper.
Right. No, I know, but I meant you did do the peroxide step when you were doing
Yes.
Artemia. Okay.
Probably more often than people normally would do it.
See, I mean, that's one of the things that I really want to hit home, especially when we do the Ask Seahorse Source Part 4, because that's my 2 mistakes. The reason I wasn't keeping Fry alive as well as I should is because my hatchery was dirty and I didn't know about the peroxide. And as soon as I learned, if you don't know it, ask, we'll cover it in a complete episode. Well, we're going to already, but man, that made so much difference because you just don't know how dirty those hatcheries are. I mean, they're dirty.
I was doing all this before I even got into seahorses. Like this,
Really?
you're looking at back 94, 95 when I started doing the Artemia.
See, this is why we need you, Ray, because even if you're not going to keep, just like Dan, even if you're not keeping seahorses anymore, you guys figured this stuff out way before we started. But Seahorse Corner said that she always thought that they were filter feeding. So are you saying they're not?
No, they're filter.
So you get
They're
another
filter feeders because they're filtering out of the water using their appendages.
So they're using their little stringy arms.
It's like
and
feather
they're
duster worms.
okay.
The feather duster worms are using their feathers to capture the food, and then they pull in their tube and feed off of what's on the feathers.
Gotcha.
Brine shrimp, they take this stuff, they capture appropriate particles, and it's indiscriminate. Anything that's proper size, they're going to capture, even if it's not digestible. But if it's the right size, they're going to capture it. They pass it along using their other appendages till it gets into their digestive tract and then goes through. But they are a filter feeder. It's just that so many people think that it's like a clam, and it's
Gotcha. But I mean, and what you just described is exactly why they're the best way to, like, when you have it. When I first had problems with seahorses and had to treat my seahorses, I tried with medications in the water and all this. And then when everybody explained to me, oh gosh, feed the medication to the artemia and then get the seahorse to eat if they're eating still, get them to eat the artemia with the medication. And that works so well because it takes it straight to the gut, because the artemia will take it in if it's the right size. Like
if
you said.
it's emulsified.
Yeah.
Like if you have a liquid, they're not going to get much of that in. Obviously, there'll be some that's on some food that they may eat or something, and as it gets passed down, but not very much, not like people think. It works to use Seachem's Focus that'll bind liquid meds to the food so that it will go down, but it's better still if you have an emulsification, because the emulsification provides particles that they capture and they feed it themselves.
Okay, you lost me with emulsification. What's emulsification?
Emulsification is like if you take a simple thing, take an egg yolk and you put it in with the liquid medication and you whip it all up, you can emulsify so that that liquid then is now bound up and emulsified with the egg yolk. But there's a lot of different emulsifiers. That's just a simple one that people use all the time in making things like dressings and mayonnaise and things like that. And
can you all tell I don't cook? Go ahead, sorry.
Once it's emulsified, then the artemia then can capture these emulsified particles and pass them on, whereas they can't grab onto liquid.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. And I mean, that really, especially if the medication was somehow liquid or whatever. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're doing that science guy. I mean, on Seahorse Whisperer, what do you know? Wine Wednesday.
Well, I dealt with, back in the 90s, I dealt with the University of, I think it's pronounced Ghent. And, Germany, I think it is. And I used to message back, well, it was emails back and forth then with Patrick, oh God, I can't even remember how to say his last name now. But there's a big article, and it may have a link on my one of my pages, maybe the Brine Shrimp page, but it's an article on live foods for aquaculture, like live foods that people use in industry for growing fish and shrimp and things like that, like edible shrimp. And I can't think of the exact title. Live foods for, where are we here? Maybe I can call.
I'm looking for it. I was looking for it too.
Oh, damn.
Anyways, we can find it later, Ray. Just what was the point of it? Is this the point? Just that what you said?
Well, yeah, like if you really want to understand how all the biology and all the things about the brine shrimp, if you can find that article and go to section 4 of it, that's Artemia. And
Okay.
there's more than just about anybody would ever want to know about it in there.
Well, now I'm on a mission to find that link, and I'll put it in the description. But yeah, I love that you and Dan and Cheryl come and share all of this with us, because I'm not sciencey and I get lost after about 2 lines. So I just like that you tell us, hey, this is what you need to do. Emulsify.
I'll send that link in a minute or so.
Okay.
I've got a book,
Sounds
so
all right.
I'll send it.
Okay, guys. Anything else? We've kind of gone on, but don't forget, next week, Cheryl and I will share more, since Cheryl couldn't come tonight. And we'll announce when the next. I really think that, like, one of the key things with seahorses, if you're into breeding, is Artemia. And I want to get Dan back for Ask Seahorse Source Part 4 and show some of Ray's knowledge and, you know, some of his site. I will put the links in the description that we discussed this week, but and thank you again to everyone that played with char chambers. We'll update soon. Is there anything else I haven't covered or need to cover? Anything I've missed? I hate when I have so many people still watching and I'm like, it's time to go. I'm out of wine. Sorry. Did I miss anything, guys? Holly?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing your videos, excuse me, and we will next week. And again, I will do a post this week, guys. If you want to share either your hatcheries or your tanks, post them on the post, comment on the post so we can share them. And I guess we'll just see you all next week. Sound good?
Okay, night all.
Yes. Good night.
Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Cheers.